Starting 502 podcast. It is January 18th at 8 p.m. Press Meyer, Matt Childress in the house ahead of a long weekend. Do you get a long weekend, Matt? I don't think you do.
I do not. The station, they got us coming in for shows tomorrow, which is fine, you know. Most people get a long weekend, so we get more listeners. Makes it a little more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even realize it was a holiday on Monday, but apparently it is. And so if you're tuning in on Martin Luther King Day 2026, we're glad to have you. Again, Presley Meyer and Matt Childress. Make sure that you follow Matt on the X platform. What is your, Matt? Tell me your.
My @ is mchildress. That's MCHILDRESS _ 2 underscores, and that's it.
And that's okay. That's the key. mchildress _ If you follow mchildress _ you're probably not going to get as many good tweets.
No.
Or you could, I don't know. Whoever has the initial underscore, shout out to that guy or gal.
Yeah, it took me a while. I was like, how many Childresses are out there with Twitter accounts? Apparently a lot, because I had to go through that. Then I had to go through underscore. Then I had to go through underscore dash to get all the way to underscore. So it's a battle out there. We're fighting for our lives.
Maybe if you did like the full Matthew Childress, that would have worked.
You're right. Maybe I would have. Maybe that was a rookie mistake back in high school when I made that Twitter account.
Shout out to you for hanging on to that one, because I've had to remake a Twitter account many a times.
I think the more embarrassing one I have is my Instagram account. It's from like middle school, and I've left all the pictures from middle school still up there. So if anybody finds it, there is a literal catalog of embarrassing moments on that.
So you tell me if this is fair or foul, and people who are listening can comment on it if they want. And I think I know what the answer is going to be, but it was brought up in some way, shape, or form that I don't delete anything off of Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or what have you, right? Whatever I put out there into the world in 2014 is there to be read and seen right now. And I, for those who don't know, I'm remarried, so I had a previous wife, and it just came to my attention that, you know, it's kind of weird for my now wife to look back at my Instagram from 6 years ago and see pictures of, like, you know, people that she doesn't know anymore. I don't know. Is that fair or foul? Should I delete all that stuff off? I think the answer seems pretty obvious, but never even occurred to me. Never thought about it.
I think it's fair. Yeah. I mean, like, think about, like, before Instagram and all that stuff was a thing, you know, you just had physical copies of photos. If you got into, in your situation, if you got into a new relationship, they didn't ask you to go find every photo and burn them to the ground.
Of course not.
Like, dude, like that's your family, that's your stuff. You have that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Also,
I think
it's a great.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I asked you a question and then I talk over you.
I was just gonna say it's also just a great conversation starter. Somebody comes up to you and is like, dude, why do you still have this on here? And you're like, well, you're asking me about it. That's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whatever my probably Presley Meyer or Presley _ Meyer. There's not, unlike M. Childress, there's not a lot of me out there. So pretty easy to find on the gram. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we're going to have to do a purge at some point. But I am, if you know one thing about me, I'm one person who is an open book. And that's why after the Virginia loss, this past week, Jacob and I turned a 25-minute show into an hour and a half because that's who we are. But I think almost feels like a lot less to talk about after Louisville's dominant 100 to let me make sure I get this right, 100 to 59 victory over Pitt. I had it up in front of me. 100 to 59. Louisville dominates Pitt. A Pitt team that they're not good, Matt.
Seems not good.
They're not, but I will say I just kind of sat down and looked over and wrote out the margin of victory or defeat for Pitt in conference play, and it's all, you know, they kept it respectable at least with other conference foes, and won their game coming into this one by 23. So it's not like they are also like they're not Boston College bad. I don't know how much that's saying. But point being, for Louisville to be coming off of a game where they were thoroughly dominated from start to finish against Virginia, they do the exact opposite when they go to Pitt. I don't know. Do we feel like here's where we can start, Matt? Do we feel like we saw some growth, some truly tangible progression from Louisville's, pretty poor start to 2026 to this game at Pitt? Any thoughts there?
This might be a harsh way to put this, but I wouldn't use the term growth just yet.
Sure.
I mean, this team hit a lot of shots in the first half. I mean, you bring down 11 threes in one half. I think they finished, 11 for 15? I forgot what the total number was, but it was around there. Which they also played great defense, too. I mean, they held Pitt to single digits up until, I think, the 10-minute mark in the half. So it wasn't just shooting like there was in some past matchups we've had. I think they did try some new things out in this game. And I think that, we'll get to some of that later on, but it was definitely a positive. I was talking on Friday about what I was looking for in this game and how nervous I was for it. And in all honesty, I was mostly nervous just for the fact of I just didn't want to like Boston College. That's all I did. I wanted to go out here. This team is, like you said, they're not great. They're not great on the defensive end. They're not great on the offensive end. They really don't have a true identity. They have some guys that can score, but nothing that we couldn't handle. I needed to see them come out, step on a team's throat that they are by far better than, more talented than, better coached, and we haven't done that in about over a month now. So I was satisfied to see that we finally went out there, put it to somebody, and didn't let them immediately fight back. We kind of just kept pushing them down over and over again, like we should be doing.
Yeah, fifth game of the season where Louisville scored 100 or more points. And I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. I think one thing I go back to, obviously, is when shots are falling, you see that this team, they play a lot better. I think part of that, though, there can be this kind of, you can say one thing and also in the same breath, also mention that that's kind of a product of Pat Kelsey's system, right? Like, their defense feeds off of their offense, and that's what they specialize in. That's what they're supposed to be one of the best teams at in the country. And so when the shots are falling, the defense does look a lot better. And when shots are falling, the ball movement flows a lot better because you're able to build upon, that as your foundation for the rest of the game. So Louisville, as you mentioned, 11 for 19 in the first half from three, only attempted 10 in the second half. And I think that was kind of a byproduct of the way that the lineup shook out. You mentioned that they were trying some new things. You saw a lot of Vinjalis Zugris. He played really well. 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists.
The spin move he had at the end of the game was beautiful. I was like, I get that it's kind of in garbage time. I understand, but it was one of those where all right, Zoo, go get you one, big guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what a lot of fans who are super optimistic about Zugris thought it was going to be like night in and night out. I was not of that thought, right? Like, I think there was a little bit of optimism, but I knew how the staff felt about Sananda Frew, and I knew what Louisville had in Ali Khalifa in a sense that he has that experience. Thought it'd be really hard for Zugris and Kamara in the offseason to find much time at all. And so far, obviously, Kamara, redshirting, but with Zugris, I've just always thought he'd be the 11th or 12th guy on this team because he just doesn't have that requisite size, and he didn't have the experience that the other bigs do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I understand he played in the Greek Pro League, but it's very different than the level that Sananda Frew was playing at. And also his size and athleticism just was not able to scale to the college game like Sananda Frew's is, right? But what I liked about Zugris in this game was that he was willing to put the ball on the floor, and then that really made him a threat down low. So he was when the opponent was kind of backing off him a little bit outside, he was able to drive the ball in, draw the defense in, and then make a pass. Just little things like that where, I mean, it's hysterical just to watch this man play the game of basketball in general, kind of in a way that, in a different way, but in a similar fashion to like a Gorgie Zhang.
Yeah.
Right? Where they're just, he's still very raw. But one thing that he's able to do is be an aggressor, and against a Pitt team that had frankly just kind of given up, like midway through the second half, he looked pretty solid. So I think that's one thing, and then the other thing obviously is just in the front court in general, some different looks in a sense that you played Zugris with Khalifa, you played Zugris with Frew, you played Frew with Khalifa. So I thought that was interesting. Louisville kind of experimenting, and I'm not sure, maybe Matt, you could weigh in on this a little bit. I'm not sure if that was from the perspective of just trying to work in some new things, or that they felt that they had a mismatch in that sense. I don't know. What were your thoughts on Louisville playing some kind of unconventional lineups, at least in juxtaposition to the rest of the season?
So, at least for me, the one that really stood out is the one you pointed out already, that when they would play Frew and Ollie together. So one of our biggest weaknesses is kind of one of also our biggest strengths is Ollie has been great down this past 5-game stretch. I know it's been a losing stretch, unfortunately, but he's played great. He's shot the hell out of the ball. He's a great facilitator. He's really able to spread the floor really well, and at least put pressure on defenses, whether they're good or bad. The thing about playing them together was I do agree with you that I think that we had some matchup. They had some matchup issues with us in those situations with, they didn't have like the size we have in Frew, and they didn't have really somebody that can match up against both players. But this was also a byproduct of getting up by so much so early that you were allowed to experiment. You were allowed to kind of play with that little bit and try some stuff out, and it worked. Like, you allowed one of our biggest weaknesses in Ollie Khalifa in the post game to be completely eradicated. You allowed him to spread the floor. You allowed him to sit around the arc. You allowed Frew to be down there at the same time and basically do his role for him instead of our simple offense we've run this whole season of, okay, well, Frew's coming out, Ollie's coming in, so we're just going to put him at the top of the key and just roll handoff over handoff over handoff and pray to God somebody gets open on a back cut. Like, you were actually capable of having a body down there that is big enough to box out, get rebounds, and also play almost 4 out with Ryan Conwell, Adrian Woolley, Kobe Rogers, and Ollie Khalifa to punish those teams where, okay, you can't just stack bodies in the paint anymore. You're going to be able to get off screens better. The floor is the spacing is going to be a lot better, which has been a big issue coming down the stretch recently. I liked it. I know that it's probably not something we can run frequently in terms of, we got to space these minutes out. We don't have a really deep front court because of the issues with Zugris that we thought maybe could pick up in that sense. And Case Pryor just hasn't really been Case Pryor of what we wanted. But it was good to see that it worked in a situation where it wasn't something that came out and that immediately would have turned a game on its head. But it's something that Pat Kelsey can look down the road and say, hey, we're getting slammed by this team in the paint. We're not getting anything at the rim. They're beating us on the boards. We have to find a way to stay imminent in the paint and cause a problem for other teams while also being able to space the floor at the same time. So if I saw it down the stretch in a couple games, whether it's just for like 5 minutes to 10 minutes in one game at different points, I'm fine with that. I think it shows that Pat Kelsey is experimenting and trying out some new systems and new things, which, if you're a Louisville fan, I mean, that's all we've been asking for. Is everything we've done so far hasn't worked, so why not try something else?
Sure. Yeah, I think you're spot on there, Matt. And I think that even the coaching staff, as stubborn as their approach is, and I can dive into what I mean by that a little bit more here in a second, but even with the way that they approach things, I think that they're not naive enough to know that when one thing isn't working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I understand that, but like if you're doing the same thing repeatedly and getting the same results, you have to mix it up a little bit, right? And I do think that part of this could also be the fact that there's so many shooters on this roster, and they understand that they were brought in to kind of play that role, right? Like you brought in Isaac McNeely, Ryan Conwell because they in part at least because they're such fantastic shooters and because you play this very specific brand of basketball, but also you have others like a Kobe Rogers, for instance, who doesn't take a lot of threes but makes them at a pretty high clip, or Michael Brown can be streaky but has serious range. Point being, a lot of these guys, they are more than willing to and excited to shoot a lot of three balls, and so the best way to kind of retroactively act against that and see what else can work for the team, putting in three big men is obviously going to give you a lot more opportunities to try to go get buckets down low, get second chance points, to do something other than what you've been doing, which is taking a lot of threes and missing a lot of them. And so I do think that there's something to be said there. And, obviously with the attrition on the roster, I do think it is interesting the timing of trying to implement Zugris, of all people, just because you lose Kenai Roots, but it seems like you have a natural fit already there, and Javon Hadley, and even sliding Isaac McNeely over in a pinch. So I do think it's interesting that they decided to go bigger when previously they hadn't really taken advantage of that depth. So just to kind of, they really just kind of flip that narrative on its head a little bit, if you will. So interesting stuff from Louisville again tonight against Pitt. I'm curious to you, outside of, shots just falling. I know we've just kind of touched on this a little bit, but outside of shots just simply falling in general, do you feel like there was a better performance elsewhere against Pittsburgh? I guess what I'm getting to is, was it just they had a good shooting night and they blew them out? Or is there something more to the fact that Pitt at least kept it respectable against a lot of ACC opponents, and Louisville just blew the doors off them and continued to just destroy them the rest of the game?
So we've seen so far in this team, in some of Louisville's best performances, that most of them are all great shooting nights, right? Like they're ridiculous. For other teams in the country, they'd be ridiculous numbers. For this basketball team, it's more of like okay, he shot pretty well. Like, this is what we're looking for. This is where you want to do. This is where you want to go. The thing about this game was Louisville took more efficient shots in this game. Like, they were a lot more open. They looked a lot more confident. It wasn't the simple of Ryan Conwell coming off a screen and he's missed his last four, so he's just kind of shot hunting, looking for that one to go in and then get a run going. We were being patient. We were swinging the ball around. We were running a true systemic offense, which we hadn't seen in the last couple of games, that would inevitably lead to better looks, more opportunities on the offensive board. The team seemed to flow a lot better around each other. They looked like they were more comfortable with playing with each other than they had in the past couple of games. So for me, it was the implementation of the systemic offense that we were finally running. It looked like for a while we were just running pick and rolls, pick and handoffs, and just praying that somebody either hedges a screen too far or goes under and Ryan Conwell or Isaac McNeely can capitalize on it. And then teams really quickly picked up on that. We swung the ball around really well. We got a lot more guys involved in the scoring aspect. Adrian Woolley looked great in this game again after he had a couple bad nights in a row. You mentioned Zugris already, kind of filling that spot that we'd seen Javon Hadley pick up on. And I feel like a lot of that comes down to the fact that if you watch the past couple games, Javon Hadley's had to step up in more of like a point guard role to give Ryan Conwell less minutes to let him rest a little bit. And I think that he's impressed a lot of people. He's really our only dude who's getting downhill and just going into a guy's chest, getting to the free throw line, finishing under serious aggression. And I think that Pat Kelsey's noticing that and saying, hey, maybe I was wrong last season to force you into a 4 all the time. Let's put you into a 2. Let's put you into a 1. Yeah. He's shooting more confidently now. It's funny how this team, we already knew that Pat Kelly's system is run fast, get rebounds, and shoot threes. It's threes or layups. That's all you're getting out of this team, right? That's what we've known. That's what Pat Kelsey does. His whole tenure has been like that. When it's like you got a group of guys who are just looking for the one to go in, right? And then once that one goes in, everybody just kind of clicks. And this was one of those games where, yes, you did get lucky in that you started the first half and you hit a lot of shots, but we've used the word twice already. That is a byproduct of what our offense looked like in this game. We came out and completely confused Pitt, just blitzed them. Like, they couldn't keep up. They had slow closeouts. We actually punished them on any mismatch we had or double team they tried. Javon Hadley got double teamed multiple times in this game. He always found the open shooter, and it worked. Sometimes those shots don't fall, sometimes they do. So at the end of the day, you can look at it and say, well, Louisville made a lot of shots. Louisville got to they made a lot of shots on fewer attempts in this game. And I think that's the biggest story of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, only taking 19 or 29 total in the game is extremely low for this team. I mean, again, everything is kind of taken with a grain of salt because it does feel like this Pitt team kind of laid down for you, right? But it was just it was almost like Louisville was like, we'll make this quick and painless for you. Just lay down for us, basically, right? Like the game went pretty quickly, and it just, I mean, with 2 hours and 2 minutes, you rarely see that in college basketball these days, right? So.
I mean, hell, if you were trying to watch the game at the start, you had to wait for, the Wake Forest Florida State game, and when it turned on, I was like, oh my God, we're up 15-0. What did I miss?
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Yeah. I think it was 10-0, and then the first shot obviously was can't remember. It was the Pitt going under another screen. And Isaac McNeely.
Oh, yeah, it was the Javon Hadley, like, half handoff. Like, yeah, I remember that, yes.
Right. So, and to your point regarding Javon Hadley, Jacob went on kind of a little bit of a tangent the other night about Javon Hadley only showing up in the second half. And, I mean, I think that's a reputation that he hasn't always carried at Louisville, but it's kind of like it seems like it happens more often than not. And, look, I understand great players probably play better in the second half, but it seems like there's been a huge juxtaposition in the aggressiveness and the way that he approaches the game, at least early on in this season, and that wasn't the case against Pitt, right? Like, he immediately took over 9 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists, and 2 steals in the first half. I mean, that's a damn good box score. Like, if he would do that, if he had that line every single half that he played, he'd be an all ACC player. I know that sounds kind of obvious, right? But I mean, 18 points, 10 rebounds, and four steals and 4 assists would be a hell of a.
Yeah, if we could get that every night, we probably wouldn't lose a lot of games.
No. And I think that he is that kind of player, though, right? Like, I'm very high on Javon Hadley's skill set, and would say that. I think last year's team had a lot of guys that by about this point in the season, you just trusted them with the ball in their hands. You trusted them to make the right decision. And ultimately, really, Louisville only lost, much like we've said tonight, they really only lost games when they just ran out of steam, right? Like, they just didn't have the bodies last year. But they had a lot of dogs. They had a lot of guys that, you trust. Chucky Hepburn, Terrence Edwards, Rain Smith, James Scott. You trust these guys with the ball in their hands, and you trust them to get a stop when they're supposed to. Point being, you don't feel that same feeling very often this year, right? Like, I think when we had a healthy team, in a sense that you had Michael Brown on the floor, more often. I think that Ryan Conwell was more that guy than he is right now. And I think Michael was a guy that you trusted, right? So when you have that tandem, when you have that duo of Brown and Conwell, I think they're very trustworthy. But what I'm getting to, I think, is as far as Javon Hadley goes, I feel like, he's the guy that you trust the most right now on this team. And I think that's why every time we've, had this conversation, Matt, it seems like it goes back to you have to have consistency from Javon Hadley. And I think you're starting to see that a little bit more. You're starting to get a little bit more of what you got last season out of him. And now it just needs to be, the onus needs to be on the rest of the team and the coaching staff and everybody around the program to figure out how they can kind of fall in line with that, how they can be that contributor and give the sort of efforts night in and night out. So, No, I mean, I guess, as we move forward, it's been interesting to see the ACC as a whole. And if you're listening, whether it be on your holiday off or in the following days, you may also see Jacob Lane and Alan Thomas are going to speak a little bit further, a little bit more in depth into Louisville's next couple of games. But I did want to cover the ACC as a whole over the last weekend, and really, week and a half has been really fascinating to watch, right? You go to Saturday's games, just very quickly, some scores. Virginia outlast SMU 72-68. Virginia's looking really good, man. Virginia Tech, solid win over Notre Dame. Georgia Tech beats NC State, which I thought was, an NC State team we talk about like they're a top 5 team in the conference. They haven't been so far. Boston College beats Syracuse. That's a tough loss for the Orange. Clemson takes care of Miami at home. North Carolina lost both games to Stanford and Cal on their Cal road trip. They fell to Cal on Saturday 84-78. Duke, easy, methodical win, 80-50 over Stanford. Then Wake Forest outlasts, most fans saw a little bit of that but prior to Louisville's game. Wake Forest outlasting Florida State, and then obviously Louisville drubbing Pitt, I guess is the proper usage. But as we get into what the ACC standings look like, so atop the conference, only 2 undefeateds left, and it's the same as when we started last year. It's Duke and Clemson. Up at the top of the conference, once again 6-0. Virginia 5-1 in conference play, and then Miami 4-1. Louisville 3-3, but still absolutely not out of being a top 4 seed. Not out of nothing is out of reach for what they want to accomplish this season. But one thing to note, Matt, and then I want to get some of your comments as well. One thing to note about the ACC, or Louisville's play in the ACC so far, their 3 wins are over Cal, who is 2-4 in conference. Boston College, who is 1-4, just notched their first win, as we just mentioned, over Syracuse, and Pitt, who is also 1-4. Against teams that are the better teams in the conference: 6-0 Duke, 5-1 Virginia, and 3-3 Stanford. So a little bit to be desired. You still have everything in front of you, right? But the upcoming schedule doesn't get much easier. What are your overall thoughts on a much improved ACC?
I've kind of went back and forth on this. If this was last season, if we were looking at this last season, I think all Louisville fans, because we all kind of understood how bad the ACC was, we'd be jumping ship already. We'd be thinking, okay, this experiment's over. This is done. There's no way we survive this. If we can't even compete against the top teams in the ACC, we're not going to make it. It just bottoms out after the 4 spot. This year, the ACC genuinely has about 5 or 6 teams that can make the NCAA tournament. And I mean, when I say make the NCAA tournament, I don't mean just like bubble teams. Like, I think they get in. I think the full buys in. Like you said, we had some serious turnaround this week in the ACC. We had a couple upsets, a couple of really good games. Louisville's obviously ends up being one of the more boring ones for the country to watch, which is a good thing for us because of all of the in quotes exciting games we've had to play in the past couple of weeks. It's nice to be on the other end of that one. Mm-hmm. Like you said already, we are definitely not out of it. There's a long ACC schedule to go. All those teams, I think besides Virginia, I don't have the schedule in front of us, but we all play them again. We play them at least. Do we play Stanford again? I don't remember.
No, we don't play Stanford again.
We play Duke again. We play SMU 2 times.
Yep.
Who is another high quality ACC team. Mm-hmm. Do we play Virginia again? I can't remember.
Hold on. No, we do not play Virginia again. It'd be the first time in ACC play that we do not face them twice.
That's actually crazy. Okay, so the point I'm getting at is we have, I think, like 6 or 7 more quad 1 opportunities towards the end of the season. Most of them are in ACC play, thankfully, which is good for us because last year our big thing was, we went 20-2 in conference went to the ACC championship game, gave Duke hell, pushed them to the brink, just kind of ran out of legs there at the end, and we almost didn't get in. There was genuine question of like 8-9 seed. Are we serious? Is what we're getting? And then you kind of get upset by Creighton, unfortunately. But this year, you do have some leeway. Like, we've already had a couple tough losses. A lot of people are picking us like 4 or 5 seed. This year, if last year if we had these losses, we're not a bubble team. People are questioning us like they were questioning UK last week. I know it's a rough start. And I know it's really easy to get down on this team and really push back, because especially from last season, the big thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about is this team just does not have that. I feel like that core touch with the fan base that last season had. It felt like we were a part of the team last year, and I get that team had a chip on their shoulder. They only rotated 6 or 7 guys. They literally had to play 37 minutes a game, and that's just not. It's just not reliable. You know, eventually you're going to bottom out. This team is better than last year. This team has more talent. But at the end of the day, we got to convince ourselves that we got to understand this team was built around Michael Brown Jr. Like, this team was built around having a lottery pick facilitator on it that we're missing. We will bounce back. We'll bounce back. We'll be fine. I think we're already hitting our stride. The Pitt game was a great get-right game for us. It was a great understanding of what we can play, how we can kind of abuse other teams, and how we can manipulate our lineup in a better way. It was great, like you said, Zian Zugras out there. I really think this team will hit its stride off of this game. I'm not worried yet, but I will say, I'll use the same phrase that I used with my friend the other day. In terms of this team's, the pressure on them, the seat is not hot just yet. The oven's not turned on just yet, but it's preheating. There are some genuine questions with this team, defensively, just effort-wise in general. I feel like there's been some lackadaisical play. I feel like the Pitt game did not have that. I feel like we really came out firing. We ran it down their throats. We did everything we could to push them away. In the second half, they did go on a little spurt there. We were trading buckets, and we shut that down immediately. It just kind of ran away. It was great to see. This team is hitting its stride, and it does feel good knowing that we got tested early. I wish we would have had more success, but we've seen what the top of the ACC looks like. As ugly as it looked, we did play to each of these teams' talent level both times. These were winnable games on both ends. Duke, Stanford, obviously that game came down to the wire. Duke, we had a 9-point lead at halftime, choked that game away. Virginia started down 0-14, fought all the way back, down 5 at half. Second half a little rough. Pat Kelsey questions of coaching there's in there. But you played to each of these losses you have to their talent level and to their skill level. And that says something about this team, about the fight this team has to not give up and fight back. I think this Pitt game will be a really huge momentum swing for them in terms of, okay, we're going to come out strong. We're going to finish strong. And I think I like where we sit right now in terms of, like you said, we're not out of it yet. We got a lot of opportunities on the stretch. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, potentially the most important stretch of the season is right here in front of us, right? So you get a week off, January 24th. You host Virginia Tech. That's a game you got to win. It's a
team with a couple really close losses, all to game winners. They're going to play hard.
Yep, absolutely. The analytics hate Virginia Tech. Not really sure why, but ESPN, again, it's ESPN. So
yeah.
But if you just look over the BPI, I think is what they call it, and the matchup predictors, they give Louisville a 93% chance of winning. So I mean, I think this is a good Virginia Tech team. Virginia Tech's a tournament team, in my opinion, and I think this is going to be an absolute dogfight. And Jacob and Allen will get into that a little bit later in the season. But then you're turning right back around and traveling to Duke to play at Duke on Monday the 26th. So huge little weekend coming up. And then the week after, obviously, Louisville comes back home, host SMU, and then Notre Dame. So, with all that in mind, the next 3 games are going to ultimately decide the rest of your season. If Louisville can potentially get Michael Brown back, That could be huge for Virginia Tech and then going back into the Duke game. But obviously, a lot of the season hinges on whether or not he returns. Just since the last time that we talked to the people, I think a lot has changed, right? The last time we spoke, we found the London Johnson news broke like as Jacob and I were speaking. Pat Kelsey was telling everybody, JK, London Johnson's actually not going to play, and I pulled the trigger too early, which, again, I don't have the energy to go into that, but just a gross mishandling for, especially for this fan base who has got their finger on the panic button at all times.
That was his first real oopsie. Like, this is 100% on you, man. You can't walk out of this. Like, that was your fault.
Yeah. I think, it's exacerbated by the Michael Brown situation and how everything's been handled. If Michael Brown's playing, and then there's a lot less questions. But now you got Kenai Roos with, God bless, mono or something, right? Hate to speculate.
He hasn't been on the bench the past couple of games, so it's got to be something pretty bad.
Yeah, from my understanding, I would not expect to see Kenai Roos this coming weekend either. I'm not 100% on that, but as of the last I'd heard, I don't think. Dude stayed home from the last trip.
Yeah.
Clearly, something's going on where he's very ill. Wish him the best, but wouldn't expect him to be back out. I am expecting Michael Brown. I think most people would be to be back by Duke. I think that's a realistic timeline unless something happens again. Right? It seems like in this saga that it's become, we'll feel really good about it, and then something else has happened. Back's been, the injury's been exacerbated or whatever the case is. It feels like, from everything we've heard, right, Corey Alexander, which, shout out, Corey Alexander, he did say that when they were watching a shoot-around, it felt like he was taking serious steps towards, progression-wise, right? He's practicing with the team. Looks like he's, basically going full speed. So it feels like we should see Michael Brown very soon. I don't think that's breaking any sort of insane news. But as Louisville's going forward, though, obviously the rest of the season kind of hinges on that. I think it's become very apparent, probably the number one thing that we've learned about this team, that they are, not even close to where they're capable of being without Michael Brown. So, Matt, any other thoughts before we throw it over to Jacob and Alan for the next episode?
I just want to say, just like you, Michael Brown, I think we all understand we're going to get this man back. The man has specifically told us himself he will be back. I feel like for anybody out there that's still doubtful of that, the worst thing that man could do for his own PR is not come back after telling a whole fan base that he will be here. So I think it only benefits him to come back. We've seen that his draft stock has begun to kind of slip a little bit in some of these mock drafts. If anything, the best thing he can do for himself is to come back and play on this team and show that, hey, this team needs me. I'm needed in college basketball. This is the reason why this team is good, is because of me. I believe it. I believe he's going to come back. I've heard all the things. He seems healthier, this and that. We've seen the stuff talk from his dad saying he's going to come back, and then he's almost ready. I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. We all need, when he does come back, we need to back this man fully. We need to understand that He did have an injury he was battling with. There are some stuff with his camp going on. This man's protecting draft. I get it. I understand. At the end of the day, when he comes back, we got to back this man. We got to back this team and understand that there's a lot of basketball ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a excellent way to put it. I am 100% with you that, I do think that Michael will return soon, and I think that can significantly impact the way the rest of the season will look. I think, you said, you listed off a couple things about the best thing that Michael Brown could do. The best thing he could possibly do is when he has a platform here and, about 9 or 10 days from when we're speaking right now, Matt, at Duke, on Big Monday, on ESPN, on national TV, come in and if you don't hand Duke an L, just come in and at least show out, right? Yeah. And prove that that you are the player that everybody believes you are. I think that's the that's the best thing that could possibly happen at this point. So here's to hoping that the progression continues, and you know, we'll see what happens as we jump into Virginia Tech, Duke, and SMU. Again, the most important stretch of the season. We'll be there right alongside you. At State of Lou is where you can find us on Twitter, at the State of Louisville on Instagram, and the TikTok as well, at Press Meyer if you're a glutton for punishment, and Matt or M Childress _ is where you can find Matt. Matt, it's been a pleasure talking a little card tubes after a dub.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, wish you guys the best, and we will see you next time on the Starting 502 podcast. Get out of here and go Cards.
Go Cards.